Please give it up for Mr. Greg Quiroga. Put your hands together for Greg Quiroga. Yes. Come on up here, Greg.
I'm a professional fundraising auctioneer, and what this means is that I work with nonprofit organizations to help plan and implement their fundraising auctions, and then the night of their event, I'm the guy who gets to get on stage and get people to spend more than they should on stuff they don't need in support of a great cause. I love my job. It's the best gig in the world, and in no small part because each and every day that I get up and head off to work, I know that I am helping make the world a better place. I'm using my powers for good. And fundraising auctions are a ball, but they're not without their challenges. And each and every event I do, there are 3 or 4 little things that go wrong, but every once in a while, there's a catastrophe that tests the very limits of my experience. A few years back, I'm doing a fundraising auction for a local nonprofit that serves the homeless, and the auction's transcending. I mean, things are selling for double what they have in the past, and an auction lot in the middle of the auction just takes off, and it's 2,000, now 22, and 24, now 26, and 28, now 3,000, and 32, 3,500 to a board member named Nick in the back of the room, now 38, 38, back to Nick at 4, yes, no, maybe so, done, sold, $3,800, the place goes nuts. I flip the page on my script, eager to ride this wave of momentum on into the next auction lot, and a volunteer comes running up from the back of the room. "We have an emergency," she says. "We need a doctor." Now, I've been in this situation before. Just a few months prior to this, I had a bidder who almost choked to death on her dinner. And I got Dr. Angel, no kidding, his name was Dr. Angel, to save her life with the Heimlich. So I know that the most important thing in this moment is to get somebody who is CPR certified to respond quickly. But when I look in the back of the room, I see the second place bidder on the last lot, Nick, prone on the floor, and the event chair is giving him chest compressions. And that's when I realize that we're heading into uncharted waters. And I tell the crowd that we're going to take a break while we wait for the EMTs to arrive, and I come off the stage to meet with staff to figure out what we're going to do next. And I have to say that at this point, I am thinking. I am not feeling. I am in event mode, and I am focused on the needs of my client and the needs of the crowd, because as the moments tick by, it becomes increasingly evident that Nick isn't going to survive. And I know that the crowd is in a really fragile emotional state, and they're going to need some way of making sense of this tragedy and some way of moving forward, or the event is going to be doomed. And they're going to suffer too. And I know that my client, they need the money. The development director comes up to me and she says, "If we don't raise the money that we were going to raise tonight, our programs are going to suffer horribly." So we talk about it, and we agree that resuming the auction would just be crass. But we decide that we'll do the fund a need, and this is the portion of a fundraising auction where we just ask people to pledge money. And when done right, a fund a need galvanizes a crowd and brings them together for a sense of communal accomplishment, and I know that this crowd needs this. So after the EMTs take Nick's body away, we get back on stage, and I tell everybody that it's up to us to make something positive happen, that Nick would have wanted us to do something, that he was a board member, he was a big supporter, and it's up to us to save the lives of many where we couldn't save the life of one. And in that moment, the crowd has an upswell of emotion, and they go on to have the most successful fund a need that event has ever had. And after it's over, and I'm making my way to the exit, people stop me and they thank me, and they tell me that that was a wonderful way to turn the evening around, and that it really felt like a good end to the evening. And it isn't until I get back to my car, I'm about to call my wife, and I'm alone for the very first time, when it hits. All of the emotions come crashing down, because I've killed a bidder. Instead of using my powers for good, they've had the ultimate opposite effect. And I would tell my friends, and they would laugh it off and say, no, you didn't kill him, but it felt like I did. And I carried that heavy for the following year. Every month that followed, I'd be doing fundraising auctions, and I'd start to ramp up the emotions, and then suddenly I'd worry that maybe I was pushing a bidder too far. Somebody would come running up from the back to ask a question, and I would flinch internally, worried that maybe the news they brought was fatal. And it wasn't until a year later, when I was doing the same event again, when one of Nick's friends came up to me, and he said, I just want you to know that Nick's heart attack was massive. It was instantaneous. And if he hadn't have been at this event, he'd have been home eating dinner alone. And instead, he got to pass away, having the time of his life with a group of friends that he loved, supporting an event and an organization that was really meaningful to him. And he could tell that this touched me really deeply, and he reached out and he put an arm on my shoulder, and he said, and I just want you to know that Nick's final words were, can you believe that just sold for $3,800? And in that moment, he lifted that yoke of guilt clean off of my shoulders and reaffirmed my faith in our powers. Because in that moment, he reminded me that we're all here for the short term. And anything that we can do to make each other's lives a little more meaningful or a little more enjoyable in any of these tiny little moments is using our powers for good.